go in and check your ice cubes, they look like a little crushed ice. You go to the pond freezes on the top, because as soon as the water gets this cold, it starts to get less dense, it freezes because of that angle I talked about. That angle makes these water molecules link up together, and they freeze at the top, not at the bottom. Now, can you imagine that God says, I'm going to let things happen, and if they don't turn out right, I'll try again. Well, that's what I would do. See, that's why we call it research, Leo, because you go in and you search, and then you search again and again, and they call it research. I would have let all the fish die, because I would have let the water freeze at the bottom, and then I go, oh my goodness, there goes all my fish. Well, let me start over. But having a God who knows the end from the beginning, He designed the hydrogen atom and the oxygen atom so that when they unite together with another bang, then you come out with water that freezes at the top, and then it allows the ice to float and allow the fish to live in the ponds and all of the sea life. Now you think that just happened? Okay, maybe. So anyway, let's go right on. And that's an inverse of the graph I just showed you, to show you ice is less dense than water, and that's why it floats at the top. And of course, I put this in words here, you can look at them, but so that the ice floats on, I think I've already labored that enough. Now we have the carbon atom, the hydrogen, and the oxygen that all make up the sugars that we eat. And I'm going to skip right through this because I can see the clock is moving faster than I am. But we want to make sure that we understand that God's creation is made of electrons, protons, neutrons, many other trons, and the atoms have of these chemical elements and the molecules of each, and many different compounds for the different cells. So let's move forward here and tell you that the body, which has about somewhere around 60 trillion cells, between 50 to 75 trillion cells in it, all because, now Leo can explain this better than I can because he just became a father, but they have two little cells, half cells I'm calling them, two little half cells that get together and make one cell, and they multiply up to about 60 trillion cells to make a human body. Now I'm not a biologist, so I'm not going to be explaining biology, but I can tell you the second law of thermodynamics is one of the laws of physics and chemistry and the other physical sciences that say that you cannot get order from chaos spontaneous. I see some of you know that already, so I don't need to belabor that. But it tells you that all spontaneous changes in the universe go from order to chaos. They don't go the other way around. So I have brought with me an experiment that I'm going to let you play with this afternoon. But basically it says this. If you take a box and you put some little spheres in it, which I have, and I think I have 13 of them here, and they will never become organized like that by you just shaking them. And I want you to try that this afternoon. Right now we won't be doing it. But these are pictures of our DNA, deoxyribonucleic acid, and they say there's enough to stretch in every human body, enough of these molecules to stretch from here to the moon. So we can talk about that later, but right now I want to get to something that I understand a little bit better than biology, and that is I'm going to talk about who made the plants and how. Yes, thank you for helping me. Who made the plants and how? Okay, here's some plants. We have that stately tree with snow on it, like it says in Canada. We have each little flower that opens, each little bird that sings. The color is beautiful. We can see the different colors. He made their glowing colors. He made their tiny wings. And they are so beautiful when you look at them during the summer. And even during, because the bees and the birds need color to go and get pollen. The color in the tree leaves, we can't explain, scientists are still working on that problem, how to explain that color. But he's provided us the abundant talent. I heard a scientist, this guy was a physicist from Russia, and he spoke about the eye. He had done some research on the eye, and he used the word creation. And I said, well, he's up to date, because that's the new theory. So these are plants that I can't, they're too marvelous to be explained. So I'm going to talk about some simple plants that I'm more familiar with. More simple than these. These are way too marvelous for me. And these simple plants are automotive manufacturing plants. had to leave and go work for a car company. So these are simple plans that even a dummy like me can explain, and I think you'll appreciate it. There are some here in Ontario, and I was in Ontario, in the city of Windsor. We climbed up the staircase. We went up to an office suite for some meetings we were going to have. And then, while the meeting, by the way, there's in Windsor about 4 million square feet, and a little more than that. About 4,600 people used to work there. It's a big place. And the Brampton plant is about the same size with about 3 million square feet. And someday you might want to drive by the Brampton plant. It is huge. I've walked from one end to the other, and boy, was I tired. If you're higher ranking, they'll give you a ride. But in this case, we were there trying to help them, and they had us walk. But these plants are huge. And as I climbed that staircase, I was waiting for the meeting to start. And I stood there looking out of this wall of glass windows at the operation of the plant. I was looking at the operation through the window, and I could see these robots working and so forth. And what I found was I became very fascinated with the complexity of the operation of the plant. Now, having worked as an engineer in the automotive industry, they call them engineers because that's what they are, I guess. But I was working with these people and helping them do things, and I found out they just bring in these big coils of steel into the plant. This is it. And they stamp or hydroform them. Sometimes they cut them with a laser, and then they put them in the press, and they shape them, and then they make them all. There's about 3,500 parts made for a car. And then, after you see 3,500 parts put together for a car, well, there's like 60 trillion little parts in your body. And they're not the smallest part either. So you have this being some subcomponents assembled by the stamping plant, others are taken out into the assembly plant, they're brought into the plant, they are put in these robots that do the welding. Now, people used to do this stuff, but now we have robots in welding. Each robot has been designed and developed over many years. Okay? Now, we're going to get to the part where the car eventually goes down the line, they glue it, they spray it with paint, and I did not stand there and wonder who made the plant or how or why the plant was built. You know why? Because I worked for the company. I'm going, okay, I know why this is so complicated, because in order to build cars, we need a plant that can do all of this. Okay? You know where I'm going with this already. No. I worked for the company and I was involved with the technology and I appreciated the purpose. When things break down, we send in people who understand how it was made and we fix it. Somebody fixes it. And they go in there and get the line working again, and in the end you have a product that my wife and I can get in and drive all the way over here without having to stop to fix it. Now the plants were not always this way. They used to produce these little ugly cars. They used to have men up there with ropes and horse. Look how they used to put the body. They call it decking the body. I used to wonder when I left NASA to go to Ford, I wondered, why do they call that decking? Well, because they used a deck. And they let the body slide down on the next car. And they have, now later models, they had men working, struggling to put these cars down the line. Now the robots are doing it and the men lay off. So we have but you see, and so we've got assembly plants. We have engine and transmission plants. We have powertrains. We have stamping plants. Each system and component has to be made by a supplier. The vehicle, the chassis, the body, the interior. I don't need to bore you with all this, but what I want to say is, go out and just drive by the Brampton plant up the road here. And get out of your car and say, that evolved. That just evolved. And you get in your car to drive home and go, boy, this evolution is great. These cars evolved. These cars, of course, they did evolve in a sense, because man is not smart enough to start out making the 2010 car. They first made a car look like a wagon, it looked like a buggy. Then they made one you sit right, so